All right, Anscape senior writer David Dennis Jr. is with us now to preview some of tonight's game. That highlight was amazing, by the way. I was kind of thrown back by it. But this is the Lakers' last trip to Cleveland this year. But you're also not convinced that this is LeBron's last game in Cleveland. Why?
No, it's not his last game in Cleveland. He'll going to play another year, but also I'm not sure it's not going to be his last time in a Cleveland Cavaliers uniform. Like, who knows what's going to happen next year? This Lakers thing feels like it is done. There's a lot of turmoil. There's smoke for that fire with the Genie Bus thing. And if there's one thing we know about LeBron James, look, Scooby, you're talking to somebody who has devised what I call the LeBron James passive aggressiveness calendar, which right around this time, he likes to put a lot of pressure on the front offices and make drop a little breadcrumbs. So what we're going to see tonight, we're going to see a dude who's going to try his best to go out there in Cleveland, put up as many points as he possibly can, and look out for that post-game presser and some of the things he says. Look out for phrases like never say never, or who knows, or anything is possible to channel KG if he wants to. LeBron James is going to be a guy that is going to tease the possibility that he is going to be back in that Cleveland Cavaliers uniform, because this Lakers thing, LeBron James' relationship with that front office and how things are going towards the end of this season.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that post-game interview. And by the way, LeBron is 9-3 in visits to the Cavaliers in his career. So, yeah, you're right. He's going to try to put up some points.
To the NBA and Kevin Garnett's tough words for LeBron James. Garnett said on his podcast, everyone has a podcast, Mike, that LeBron fouled up the tradition of the NBA All-Star Game in 2012 when he passed the ball twice in the final seconds rather than go one-on-one with the great Kobe Bryant. All right, Mike, people love to blame LeBron for so many things. Do you blame him for the decline of the All-Star Game?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No. The All-Star Game was going down. It was headed down. This is one of those cases, Frank, where I never spent any time trying to figure out who to put the finger on for specific blame. The whole culture is to blame. The league is to blame. And the top players, all of them share in some blame. Now, for those of us who were around that game and the aftermath, yes, Kobe Bryant issued an on-court verbal challenge we all could hear to LeBron James.
Yep.
And I don't know why LeBron didn't take him up on it. Part of the culture and the history of the All-Star Game was to take people up on it.
Yep.
Whether this was, remember, we got beef going back to Jordan and a freeze out.
That's right.
We have stuff with Kobe and Michael.
In 98.
And so it all seemed, if not in good fun, it all seemed to be acknowledged in real time. This, though, stuck, and LeBron gets the blame for this. I'm not going with that.
I think in that moment, I do understand LeBron not just going along with the spirit of the game. Kobe wants to go with him one-on-one. So the first pass...
It's like a hockey fight. Let's drop the glove.
Exactly.
And LeBron declined.
So he throws it to Darren Williams because they were down 2. Darren Williams shoots a 3. Darren Williams was 8 for 10 at that time. So you could say it was a basketball play.
Yeah.
If you watch the replay of it, I had a close look at it today. Kevin Durant on the other one comes over and double teams, and LeBron, that's his instinct.
That's right.
But so I'm not going to, the players might think that moment. I think the fans think, you don't show up for ever in the slam dunk. Kobe and Michael did it. So now Zion Williamson doesn't show up for the slam dunk. That hurts the weekend, Mike. And I think the other thing was,
what hurts the weekend is they don't give a damn about Sunday. They don't want to play the game.
And maybe that was a player empowerment thing, but there's a couple of years ago, Luka's not trying in the All-Star game, Nikola Jokic, and then last year, they turned the All-Star game into a round robin, and then you have, the game was spent with, it was a Kevin Hart celebrity roast, and then we were celebrating inside the NBA, because as you know, they went away, even though they're back this year.
Yeah.
So the game gets hijacked, but the players need to try more. That's the biggest issue.
And the league needs to try. And the league got it wrong again. The league was scared again. It's a gutless move to put this All-Star game out there. You walk right up to the line where you can get something that people are engaged by, and either 2 or 3 players or their agents, you know who I'm probably talking about, if you want to blame people, 2 or 3 players or maybe 1 and an agent, they don't want to do it, so you don't do it. So you put something out there on Sunday that's so embarrassing, the commissioner had to admit the following Monday he was embarrassed.
A couple of years ago, they had Larry Bird and Dr. J ask the players to try hard in the game. I've said this before. You look at the baseball All-Star game, Ohtani might get 2 at-bats. Aaron Judge may get 2 at-bats, right? The fans understand that other guys are going to play.
Yeah.
Go to the players the night before the game, how many minutes you want to play. Nikola Jokic say, I'll play 8 minutes, right? Play those 8 minutes.
Call the top players in the office in the off season and say, we're not going to have an all-star game. That's an embarrassment. So participate and help us put together something that's honorable
Jalen Brunson,
instead of that garbage that's out there.
Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese Halliburton, those guys would have played harder. They didn't play them last year. If the stars don't want to play, pull them out of the game.
Send them home.
Exactly.
Won't happen.
No.
League didn't have the guts. Let's go to the Australian Open.
Possible to miss if you're actually paying attention. DeAndre Ayton went from looking like a revelation in November, putting up 16 points and 9 rebounds a night with energy and engagement, to suddenly playing less than 24 minutes in 4 straight games and looking completely disengaged. Austin Reeves was supposed to return against Cleveland tonight. Then one of the most prominent reporters in basketball tweeted it out, deleted the tweet 45 minutes later with no explanation, and now we're all sitting here wondering what's actually happening with this roster. And here's the thing that's really egging at me. JJ Redick keeps benching Ayton in the 4th quarter, going to small ball lineups or even Jackson Hayes instead, and yet nobody wants to say what we're all thinking. This isn't just about matchups or rotations or a game flow. This is about a fundamental problem with how this roster is constructed, and it's becoming more obvious with every game that the Lakers are 28-17, sitting 5th in the West, and they're about to face Cleveland tonight without Austin Reeves, their second best player who's been out for 16 straight games. They just beat Chicago by 11 on the road with Luka dropping 46 and Rui coming off the bench for 23 on ridiculous efficiency. On paper, things should be trending up, but underneath the surface, there are cracks forming that could derail this entire season if they're not addressed immediately. DeAndre Ayton's diminishing role isn't just a coaching decision. According to reports that came out recently, the Lakers never viewed him as a long-term solution at center in the first place. They signed him to a cheap 2-year deal, knowing full well he was just a stopgap until they could find their real answer at the 5. And now, halfway through the season, we're watching that reality play out in real time as his minutes decrease and his impact fades. Meanwhile, Austin Reeves is supposedly days away from returning, which would be great news, except for the fact that his return is going to create a whole new set of rotation problems that Redick is going to have to figure out on the fly. Before we dive into all of that, make sure you hit that like button, because what I'm about to break down is going to change how you see this Lakers roster construction and where they're actually headed. Let's start with the DeAndre Ayton situation, because this is where everything begins to unravel if you really look at the numbers. In November, Ayton was averaging 16.6 points, 9 rebounds, and 1.3 blocks per game over 11 games. He looked engaged, he was finishing around the rim, he was providing exactly what the Lakers needed from the center position. Fast forward to his last 15 games, and those numbers have cratered to 10.7 points and 8.3 rebounds. That's a massive drop-off, and it's not because of injury or because teams started defending him differently. It's because Ayton has mentally checked out in a way that anyone who watched him in Phoenix or Portland will recognize immediately. The effort isn't there, the engagement isn't there, and most tellingly, the minutes aren't there anymore. Over the last 4 games, Ayton hasn't played more than 24 minutes in any contest. JJ Redick is actively shortening his leash. And in multiple games, we've seen Ayton get pulled in the 4th quarter in favor of small ball lineups, or even Jackson Hayes, who provides way more energy even if he's nowhere near as skilled. Against Dallas, the small ball lineup without Ayton scored 34 points in 10 minutes with a plus 17 rating against Chicago. Similar story, the starting lineup with Ayton over the last 2 games has been a minus 15 in 22 minutes. Those aren't minor differences. Those are the kind of splits that tell you a player is actively hurting your team when he's on the floor, regardless of what his individual stats look like. And here's the part that should concern Lakers fans the most. This isn't new behavior from Ayton. This is exactly what happened in Phoenix when things weren't going his way. This is exactly what happened in Portland when he wasn't getting the touches he wanted. There's a reason he's already on his 3rd team at age 27, and it's not because he lacks talent. It's because when Ayton gets frustrated or feels like he's not being featured enough offensively, his defensive effort disappears and he becomes a liability on both ends. JJ Redick even mentioned recently that he thinks Ayton is frustrated because he's not getting the ball enough. Think about that for a second. You're a starting center on a team with Luka Doncic and LeBron James, 2 of the greatest playmakers in basketball history, and you're pouting because you're not getting enough touches. That's not the mindset of a winning player. The tape doesn't lie either. When you watch Ayton on defense lately, he's using his hands instead of his body to box out. which allows offensive rebounds. He's getting stuck on the wrong side of screens in pick-and-roll defense because he's too slow to switch. He's committing moving screens on offense that are wiping out scoring opportunities for Luka. These are fundamental basketball mistakes that a 7-year veteran shouldn't be making. And the fact that they keep happening game after game tells you this is a focus issue, not a skill issue. Thinking it through, the Lakers are realizing in real time what Phoenix and Portland already learned. DeAndre Ayton is extremely talented when he's engaged and motivated, but you cannot count on him to bring that engagement consistently enough to build around him as your starting center. Which brings us to the reporting that came out from Jake Fisher that basically confirmed what a lot of us suspected all along. According to Fisher, the Lakers never viewed DeAndre Ayton as their long-term answer at center. He was always a stopgap solution, someone they could bring in on a cheap tier deal to fill the position while they figured out their real plan at the 5. Fisher specifically said on a live stream that the Lakers don't see Ayton as the peak partner for Luka Doncic for the next decade, and that the front office will be front and center in the big man market this coming offseason. This shouldn't come as a shock to anyone who is paying attention to how the deal went down. The Lakers signed Ayton to a 2-year $16.2 million contract with a player option in year 2. That's $8.1 million per season if they thought Ayton was their guy long term. The guy who was going to anchor the middle for their championship runs with Luka. They would have locked him up on a longer deal that aligned with Lucas's timeline. Remember the Mark Williams situation? The Lakers tried to trade for Williams before the season, viewing him as a legitimate long-term solution at center. That trade got rescinded because Williams failed his physical, but the intent was clear. The Lakers wanted a young, athletic, rim-running big who could grow with Luka and be part of the core for the next 5 to 7 years. When that fell through, they pivoted to Ayton as a band-aid, not as a cure. Fisher made this distinction explicit, noting that the Lakers never looked at Ayton the same way they looked at Williams. Ayton was affordable, he was available, and he filled a need, but he was never the answer. And you know what? The Lakers were smart to structure it this way. They got Ayton for essentially nothing after Portland bought him out. They're paying him minimal money, and if he opts into his player option next year at around $8 million, he'd actually be solid value as a backup big who can give you 20 minutes a night, but as a starting center on a team with championship aspirations. The Lakers have already seen enough to know that's not going to work. Fisher's reporting indicates that the Lakers will be aggressive in pursuing a center this offseason, whether through the draft with their available first-round pick, through free agency with potential cap space, or through trades using their future assets. They need someone who can defend at a high level, finish lobs in the pick and roll, and most importantly, bring consistent effort every single night, regardless of how many touches they get offensively. The reality is that agents and rival teams around the league have already picked up on this. They know the Lakers don't have their center of the future. They know Ayton isn't the guy. And that's going to shape how teams approach trade negotiations with Los Angeles both at this deadline and in the summer. Eu acredito that the Lakers might do the right call treating Ayton as a short-term option rather than committing long-term money to a player who is already washed out with 2 other franchises. But the problem is that this leaves them in limbo at the most important defensive position on the floor for the rest of this season. Now here's where it gets really interesting when you dig into the specifics of why Ayton has struggled in this Lakers system. It's not just about effort or engagement. There's a fundamental stylistic disconnect between how Luka Doncic operates as a playmaker and how DeAndre Ayton wants to play as a center. Ayton is he's not the type of center who's going to sprint down the floor in transition, catch a lob at the rim, and throw down a dunk on somebody's head like Jackson Hayes does. Ayton is more methodical. He wants to operate in the mid-range, use his footwork, hit turnaround jumpers with either hand, and work that 12 to 15-foot area where he's actually pretty skilled. Problem is that Luka doesn't really feed that style of play. Luka is a late passer when it comes to bigs. He's probing the defense, he's creating advantages, and when he finally delivers the ball to the roll man, it's usually a lob or a pocket pass right at the rim in the split second before the defense can recover. That's perfect for guys like Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively, who thrive playing with Luka in Dallas because they'd roll hard to the rim and finish above the rim. But Ayton doesn't play that way. He wants the ball earlier in the possession so he can go to work in the middle. And that timing just doesn't sync up with how Luka orchestrates the offense. You can see it in games where there are possessions where Ayton is open rolling to the basket and Luka holds the ball. And then there are possessions where Luka is ready to pass and Ayton has already stopped his roll because he didn't get the ball when he wanted it. Now contrast that with how Ayton played early in the season when he was sharing the floor more with Austin. Reeves operates in that mid-range pocket. He's constantly probing with his dribble. He uses the bounce pass and the pocket pass beautifully, and he's comfortable feeding bigs in the mid-range area because that's how he played with Anthony Davis for years. A D made a living on those push shots, floaters, and turnarounds from 10 to 15 feet. And Reeves knew exactly when and how to get him the ball in those spots. Ayton has a similar skill set in the mid, and when he was playing with Reeves early in the year, you could see the chemistry starting to develop, but then Reeves got hurt, and Ayton has been playing primarily with Luka and LeBron for the last 15 games, and the fit just isn't there. This isn't to say that Ayton can't or shouldn't be able to adapt to playing with Luka. Elite players figure out how to adjust to different systems and different playmakers. But the fact that Ayton hasn't been willing or able to change his game to fit what Luka needs tells you everything about his mentality. If you can't figure out how to play effectively with Luka Doncic, one of the best playmakers in basketball who makes everyone around him better, then what does that say about your long-term future with this franchise? Pensando bien, this stylistic disconnect might actually improve when Reeves comes back and can help bridge that gap. But that doesn't solve the fundamental problem that Ayton isn't engaged enough defensively to be a starting center on a championship team, which explains why JJ Redick has been going to other options more and more frequently in crunch time. Jackson Hayes has been getting extended run lately, and it's easy to see why. Hayes brings exactly what Ayton doesn't bring, which is energy, athleticism, and a willingness to do all the dirty work. He's rolling hard to the rim, he's finishing lobs, he's blocking shots, he's crashing the offensive glass. Hayes went viral the other day with an absolutely insane East Bay dunk in transition. That's the kind of stuff that gets your teammates hyped and shifts momentum in games. Ayton doesn't provide any of that. When's the last time you saw Ayton make a play that got the whole bench on their feet? When's the last time he took over a game with his energy and effort rather than just hitting mid-range jumpers when the defense allowed it? And then there's this small ball option that's been even more effective. When the Lakers go small with LeBron at the 5, or Rui Hachimura at the 5, or even Jake LaRavia playing some center minutes in small ball lineups, they're just better. The spacing opens up, the pace increases, and suddenly Luka and LeBron have more room to operate. Against Dallas, that small ball lineup with LeBron, Luka, Marcus Smart, LaRavia, and Rui scored 34 points in 10 minutes with a plus 17 rating. Against Chicago, similar results. These lineups are destroying opponents because everyone can switch defensively. Everyone can handle the ball a little bit, and everyone can space the floor. Ayton provides none of those advantages. The starting lineup with Ayton, on the other hand, has been a disaster lately over the last 2 games. That starting 5 has been a minus 15 in 22 minutes. That's catastrophic. And it's not just bad luck or random variance. It's a clear indication that opposing teams are attacking Ayton, exploiting his lack of lateral quickness and forcing him into rotations where he's either too slow to recover or he's making mental mistakes. JJ Redick is not an idiot. He sees these numbers, he watches the film, and he's making the obvious adjustment by shortening Ayton's leash and going to lineups that actually work. The question becomes whether Ayton even has a rotation spot moving forward. If Hayes continues to provide energy and the small ball lineups continue to dominate, Jared Vanderbilt is also getting minutes at the 5 in certain matchups, and he's been phenomenal on the defensive glass and as a versatile defender. Drew Tim has even gotten some run and shown flashes. The Lakers have options at center, and Ayton is quickly becoming the least appealing of those options. You Acredito that once Austin Reeves comes back and the rotation settles, we're going to see Ayton's minutes drop even further, possibly into the low 20s per game. And there's a real chance he loses his starting spot entirely if this trend continues. Speaking of Austin Reeves, let's talk about one of the strangest injury report sagas I've seen all season. On Tuesday evening, Shams Charania, one of the most prominent and reliable NBA reporters in the business, posted on social media that Austin Reeves had been upgraded and would be available to return to the lineup on Wednesday against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Lakers fans went crazy. People started making videos. The entire narrative shifted to how Reeves' return would change the rotation and give the Lakers a massive boost heading into the second half of the season. And then, about 45 minutes later, Shams deleted the tweet with no explanation. Just gone, no follow-up, no correction, no acknowledgement that he'd posted it in the first place. Shortly after that, the Lakers released their official injury report, and Austin Reeves was listed as out along with Rukia Dut. So what the hell happened? Did Shams get bad information from his source? Did the Lakers change their mind at the last second after Reeves went through a workout? Did Reeves regravate something in practice? Nobody knows. And that's what makes this so frustrating. This isn't some random beat reporter making a mistake. This is Shams Charania, who has connections at the highest levels of the NBA and is usually rock solid with his reporting. For him to post something that definitive and then delete it without explanation is bizarre. And here's why this matters beyond just the weirdness of the situation. The Lakers desperately need Austin Reeves back. He's been out for 16 straight games after suffering a left calf strain in late December. Before the injury, Reeves was playing the best basketball of his career, averaging career highs in points, rebounds, and assists, with 26.6, 5.2, and 6.3 respectively. He was shooting over 50% from the field and had become a legitimate secondary scorer and playmaker next to Luka. His absence has forced LeBron to carry more of the offensive load than he should at age 41. And it's put enormous pressure on the supporting cast to step up in ways they're not really equipped to handle. Getting Reeves back would instantly make the Lakers better on both ends of the floor. JJ Redick had said before the Dallas game that Reeves could potentially return as early as the Cleveland game, which is today. He mentioned that Reeves had gone through a stay ready game, which is basically a full contact scrimmage with coaching staff and practice players, and that he was progressing well. The plan was for Reeves to go through one more stay ready game and then be cleared to return. Based on Redick's timeline, today against Cleveland made sense as a target date, but clearly something changed between Redick's comments and the actual injury report. Either the Lakers are being extra cautious, given that Reeves already aggravated this calf injury once before, or something happened in that second stay ready game that made them pump the brakes. Either way, Lakers fans went from thinking they were getting Reeves back tonight to realizing they're going to have to wait at least a few more days, possibly until Friday against Washington or this weekend against New York or Brooklyn. The cautious approach makes sense from a medical standpoint. Calf injuries are tricky, and rushing someone back can lead to much more serious problems down the line. We all remember what happened with players who tried to play through calf issues and ended up with Achilles problem. But from a basketball standpoint, every game Reeves misses is another game where the Lakers are operating at less than full strength, and another game where LeBron has to do more than he should be doing at this stage of his career. Pensando bem, I'd rather have Reeves miss a couple more games and come back 100% healthy than rush him back for one game and lose him for another month. But the way this whole thing played out with Shams was just weird and added unnecessary drama to an already complicated situation, assuming Reeves does return in the next few games. Whether it's Friday in Washington or this weekend in New York, what should Lakers fans realistically expect? First and foremost, we need to be patient. Reeves has missed 16 straight games. He hasn't played competitive basketball in over a month. He's going to need time to get his legs under him, find his rhythm, and rebuild his conditioning. Anyone expecting him to come back and immediately drop 28 points with 8 assists like he was doing before the injury is setting themselves up for disappointment. JJ Redick will almost certainly have him on some kind of minutes restriction for the first few games back, probably in the 20 to 25 minute range, and we shouldn't be surprised if his first couple of performances are a little rusty. But even a rusty Austin Reeves is valuable to this Lakers team. His ability to handle the ball and run the offense takes pressure off both Luka and LeBron. His playmaking opens up opportunities for others, and his willingness to attack downhill and get to the free throw line creates offense in ways that guys like Gabe Vincent and Marcus Smart just can't replicate. The Lakers have been operating without a legitimate third ball handler for over a month, and that's part of why they've struggled offensively at times. Getting Reeves back instantly gives them that third guy who can initiate offense, make reads, and create for others when Luka and LeBron are on the bench. There's also the question of where Reeves fits in the pecking order when he comes back. Before the injury, he was clearly the second option on offense behind Luka. He was taking 18 shots a game and creating a huge chunk of the Lakers' offense either through his scoring or his play. Does he slide right back into that role, or does he need to defer more to LeBron early on while he's finding his footing? My guess is that JJ Redick will let Reeves be aggressive and play his game from day one, with the understanding that there might be some growing pains as the big three figure out how to share the ball and coexist offensively. The good news is that both Luka and LeBron are unselfish players who don't need the ball in their hands every possession to impact the game. There are plenty of possessions to go around for all three. The other element that makes Reeves' return so important is what he brings defensively. Yes, he's not a stopper by any means, but he's solid on that end. He makes the right rotations, he fights over screens, and he's willing to put in the effort. That matters on a team that has struggled defensively all season. The Lakers are 23rd in defensive rating, and a big part of that is because they don't have enough guys who can guard multiple positions and execute the game plan consistently. Reeves helps in that regard, even if he's never going to be an all-defense candidate, and his presence allows JJ Redick to stagger his stars more effectively, which means the Lakers can always have at least two of Luka, LeBron, and Reeves on the floor at all times. Eu acredito that Reeves' return is going to be the most impactful midseason addition any team makes without actually trading for someone. The Lakers are essentially getting back a player who was averaging 2.665 on efficient shooting and had legitimate all-star buzz before the injury. That's huge. But we need to give him 3 or 4 games to shake off the rust and find his rhythm. Before we start judging whether he's back to his pre-injury form, the Lakers have 4 games left on this road trip, including tonight against Cleveland, Friday in Washington, and then games in New York and Brooklyn. If Reeves can come back and give them even 70% of what he was doing before, that's enough to stabilize his team and get them trending in the right direction heading into February and the stretch run toward the playoffs. But Reeves' return creates a whole new problem that JJ Redick is going to have to solve, and that's the rotation. Right now, the Lakers are starting Marcus Smart, Luka Doncic, Jake LaRavia, DeAndre Ayton, and LeBron James. That starting 5 has been relatively stable over the last few games, and while the results have been mixed, there's at least some continuity. When Reeves comes back, someone is losing their starting spot. The question is who? Do you go with Marcus Smart, who brings veteran leadership, championship experience, and makes winning plays even if he's not putting up big numbers? Or do you go with Jake LaRavia, who's 23 years old, playing in his first real rotation role and has been solid on the glass and defensively even if he's inconsistent offensively? The easy answer from a basketball standpoint is that Smart should go to the bench. He's the older player. He's been in the league longer. He understands how to impact the game in a reserve role, and his skill set translates well to playing with bench units where he can be more of a primary initiator. LaRavia has been earning his minutes with hustle, rebounding, and defensive versatility. And there's an argument that pulling him out of the starting 5, right, when he's starting to figure things out, could hurt his confidence and development. But there's also an argument that Smart's experience and ability to make the right play in big moments is more valuable in the starting lineup, especially against elite competition where every possession matters. If I had to make the call right now, I'd probably lean toward keeping Smart in the starting 5 and bringing LaRavia off the bench. But I can see it going either way. What's more interesting to me is whether JJ Redick even brings Reeves straight back into the starting lineup or whether he eases him back by having him off the bench for the first few games on a minutes restriction. My gut says Reeves will be in the starting lineup pretty quickly, probably by his 2nd or 3rd game back, because he's too good not to be starting, and his agent probably isn't thrilled about the idea of him coming off the bench when he was playing like an all-star before the injury. But there would be some basketball logic to bringing him off the bench initially, letting him get his legs back, and then sliding him into the starting 5 once he's closer to 100%. The other wrinkle here is what happens with Rui Hachimura, who has been absolutely thriving as the 6th man. Rui came off the bench against Chicago and dropped 23 points on 9 of -11, shooting with 4 threes. He's been great in that role, providing instant offense against second units and closing games in small ball lineups. The Lakers finally figured out the perfect role for Rui, and they'd be smart not to mess with it just because Reeves is coming back. So ideally, you'd have Reeves in the starting lineup, Rui as the 6th man, and then either Smart or LaRavia coming off the bench as well. That gives you legitimate scoring punch from your reserves, which is something the Lakers haven't had all season. The real skill for JJ Redick is going to be managing minutes so that you always have at least 2 of Luka, LeBron, and Reeves on the floor at all times. You want to stagger them so that when Luka goes to the bench, you have LeBron and Reeves running the offense. When LeBron sits, you have Luka and Reeves. And then you have stretches where all 3 are on the floor together, particularly to start games and close games. That's how you maximize your talent and ensure you're not going through extended stretches where you don't have a legitimate playmaker on the floor. The Lakers have struggled with that all season, and Reeves' return should help solve that problem if the rotation is managed correctly. Pensando bem, this is actually a good problem to have because it means the Lakers finally have enough talent where they're trying to figure out how to squeeze everyone into the rotation rather than scrambling to find warm bodies to fill minutes. And that brings us to the final piece of this puzzle, which is LeBron James and how his role evolves when Austin Reeves comes back. Over the last month with Reeves out, LeBron has had to shoulder more of the offensive burden than he probably should at age 4. He's been great, averaging 24.8 points, 7.5 rebounds, 7.3 assists, and 1.2 steals over his last 12 games, and he's shown he can still take over games when needed. Against Dallas, he scored 11 of his 17 points in the fourth quarter during that comeback. Against Chicago, he scored 20 of his 24 in the first half and set the tone early. LeBron is still LeBron, and anyone who doubts that hasn't been paying attention, but there's a cost to asking him to do this much night after night. And we've seen it in past years where LeBron is exhausted or banged up by the time the playoffs roll around because he had to work too hard during the regular season. When Reeves comes back, LeBron can afford to take a step back and slide into more of a third option role. And here's the key. LeBron is totally comfortable with that. He's shown it in the past when he played with Dwayne Wade in Miami, when he played with Kyrie Irving in Cleveland, and when he played with Anthony Davis here in LA. LeBron doesn't have an ego about being the number one option every single night. He's perfectly happy facilitating, playing off ball, making the right play, and letting other guys get theirs. The problem in recent years has been that the Lakers haven't had anyone good enough to take that burden off him consistently. But with Luka Doncic averaging 33.8 points and 8.8 assists per game, and Austin Reeves averaging 26 plus before his injury, suddenly LeBron doesn't need to be the guy every night. What's been really encouraging lately is how much more LeBron has been playing off ball and moving without the basketball. You're seeing him make cuts to the basket, relocate to the corner for threes, crash the offensive glass, and just generally impact the game in ways that don't require him to have the ball in his hands for 30 seconds per possession. His connections with Luka have been improving, and there have been some beautiful possessions where Luka is orchestrating everything and LeBron is just moving intelligently, finding open spaces, and making the simple play. That's championship basketball. That's LeBron understanding what this team needs from him at this stage of his career. And when Reeves comes back, that dynamic is only going to get better because now you have three guys who can all handle the ball, create for others, and score when needed. The other benefit of LeBron operating more as a connector and third option is that it preserves him for the playoffs. We've talked about this for years, but it keeps being an issue. LeBron plays too many minutes and has to do too much during the regular season, and then by April and May, he's either injured or just gassed. Last year's playoffs were a perfect example. LeBron was dealing with multiple injuries, he didn't have his normal explosiveness, and the Lakers got bounced in the first round. If the Lakers can manage his workload better over these final 35 to 40 games, get Austin Reeves back to share the offensive load, and let LeBron pick his spots rather than asking him to be Superman every night, he's going to be in much better shape come playoff time. And that's when you need him most. So the blueprint is pretty clear. Luka is the number one option, the guy who's going to lead the offense and get his 30 plus points every night. Reeves is the number two, the secondary creator who can give you 22 to 25 points and run the offense when Luka sits. And LeBron is the number three, the veteran connector who can still give you 20 to 23 a night but doesn't have to force anything and can conserve energy for when it matters most. That's a balanced attack that allows all three guys to thrive without stepping on each other's toes. The question is whether JJ Redick can actually execute that vision and whether all three players buy into their roles. Based on what we've seen lately, I think the answer is yes. EU accredito that once this team gets fully healthy and the rotation settles, they're going to be really dangerous heading into the playoffs. Assuming they can figure out the center position and find one more wing defender at the trade deadline. Drop your comments below. Do you think DeAndre Ayton's days as the starter are numbered? When do you think Austin Reeves actually returns? And should Marcus Smart or Jake LaRavia lose their starting spot when Reeves comes back? Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you in the next one.